Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 21 of the East Anglia Hobbit Community Podcast. I'm Jack, and I'm here today with Josh.
Hello, everyone.
So this is just going to be a quick video, but we thought we'd throw it out quickly. The new February FAQs have been updated with a few minor changes. So we thought while it might be a bit of a hot topic and a bit of interest to some people, we'll throw out our a quick run through and our quick opinions on it. It won't be very long, but like we say, it could be quite relevant at the moment and might be of some interest to you. So, yes, we just go straight into it. And if we start with the new update for the February FAQ, well, first of all, are you surprised that they updated it rather than waiting to August?
A little bit.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't have been surprised for them to make some of the changes that they have, which we'll go into, but potentially in the August edition.
It would have been nice to have seen how the meta changed for like 4 or 5 months. Because obviously the changes they've added now will still affect some of the top tier player lists.
They're not as dramatic as they were in the initial edition, if you like, of the FAQ. But I think it's like there was, I wouldn't say a backlash, but there was a lot of opinions on it, should we say, that were just firing around various groups.
There was a lot of backlash.
Yeah. But whether it was a case of some of the changes were quite last minute and then after things have been looked through properly and played through properly, that's not me suggesting that things aren't tested, but maybe it was a late decision maybe, and maybe it's been fine-tuned a little bit. The changes haven't been completely reversed. They've just a few have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So while we keep talking about that, should we just dive straight into it?
Yeah, so official errata for the rules manual itself. The Siege Engine one is the same, I believe.
Yeah, it looks exactly the same.
The Allies one has changed again slightly.
This is probably the biggest tweak of the lot. Well, there's a few other ones as well, but this is probably the biggest one.
Adding allies, add the following paragraph. Naturally, when the multiple armies ally with each other to fight together, they will each be led by an appropriate leader for historical alliances. Each allied force must contain at least one hero with the heroic tier of fortitude. So this was Valor for everyone, but it's now for green alliances or historical alliances, sorry, it is now fortitude is okay. Mm-hmm. And for convenient allies or an alliance containing impossible allies, so yellow or red alliances, both parts will need a heroic tier of Valor or higher. So the change has gone from Valor for everything to Fortitude for green/historical, and Valor for yellow and red, so convenient and impossible.
And Wanderers in the Wild still ignore the restrictions, but that's a very niche little army unit.
Yeah.
With this, I think I like it because it doesn't restrict too much again on the army building, which it seemed to go a bit too restrictive for my liking anyway. But saying that, I play mostly one army.
I mean, the issue is if you wanted to ally something, there was workarounds. There was a few lists where it didn't make sense. I think the Iron Hills one, you could only have Dane I don't know why you wouldn't take Dane, but a lot of people were arguing that at lower points where you might have only wanted a warband or two. It does seem that if you want to take a green alliances again, you can now sort of cherry pick. Mm-hmm. I just think it would have been nice to have seen the meta develop a little bit first before they pulled the trigger on an errata like that. But hey, I'm not against it. I think
not at all. I like you say, I kind of prefer it this way personally. But again, like you say, I'm a bit surprised that it did change so quickly. Obviously, whether things were looked at in a different light or it was purely because quite a few people had some strong feelings about it. We probably won't really know that, but I don't think it's a bad thing that it's been retweaked for whatever the reason was.
I think down the line we might see it change again, potentially. When obviously there was a lot of lists that were potentially no longer viable at certain points levels because of the change itself.
Yeah.
So whether we get legendary legions for those few, what's the right word? a
niche
few.
armies,
Yeah, so there was obviously
alliances.
a lot of people were suddenly throwing up, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, and I was thinking, I've never seen any of those armies ever.
Yeah,
But because you could do it, and then now you can't do it for whatever reason, obviously they've changed it.
yeah.
Potentially, if we get legendary legions, which are very popular at the moment for certain things, certain lists, then potentially that might change again, or it might not. Obviously, we've now got this till August, or is it October? I can't remember when the next one is.
I think it's August.
Yeah, we've now got this one for a few months, unless it obviously changes again. It could, but I don't think it will now.
No, I think that, like these changes that we'll go through the more of them, they're just more minor tweaks. Whether that is once things have been gone through with a fine comb, just to
Yeah,
balance it up a little bit. I think that's more of what it
so
was.
I do like it. From a Green Alliance standpoint, um, there's a few where it's still a bit.
Open to abuse, if you like, but that was always going to be the case with any changes. There's always going to be one or two combos.
As I said in the original Errata podcast, competitive players will find a way to play competitively, and the casual player will play casually.
Yeah,
Obviously, if you're at home playing your friend, you don't necessarily have to adhere to these FAQ changes anyway. You can just
no,
play however you want.
exactly.
But from a tournament standpoint, and obviously I'm running an event in a few weeks, it now gives people who had to change their lists the chance to change back. A few
Mm.
people had messaged me saying, "Oh, I can't do this now," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really sorry, but the FAQ will be in use."
Yes,
So now
I think it's a
potentially,
nice middle ground.
it's a happy medium, right?
I quite like it personally, but I could see why people were upset before, and
Oh, just
people
to
might.
clarify, I don't dislike it. It's
Oh
just
no, no,
I'm
yeah,
playing devil's
yeah,
advocate
of
and being
course,
the,
yeah.
you know,
But then I can also see why people who had the positive views on the last change will now think this might be a bit too far going back. I can see it both ways, but personally, I think it's a nice middle ground between
yeah.
stopping the horrible and allowing the good,
I mean,
fun stuff.
it stops. I mean, we'll go on to it as well. It stops certain heroes being um,
Dropped.
into every good list, for instance. So
Exactly. Cool. So should we move on to the armies of the Lord of the Rings? I think so. It seems like it is just the rules manual, the armies of the Lord of the Rings, and the armies of the Hobbit. The supplements and battle companies don't seem to have had an update as yet.
no,
But if they do, I imagine they'll be a lot less dramatic as these ones anyway.
yeah,
Cool. So the armies of the Lord of the Rings. So the first one, the Aragorn, King Elisar rule is still the same. He can't be included with Boromir and Denethor. You've given your thoughts on that in the
I
last
think it's
episode.
both. I don't know if it was both Boromir profiles before, but it is now. I can't remember. So
Oh, I didn't even notice that actually. So maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But anyway, it's still basically the same thing.
yeah,
So we won't go into that too much. King of Men changed to Valor. That was Hero of Valor. That was the same
uh,
as the last.
it's all men profile, all king profiles.
Yeah,
So Dwarf King, Harad King, Mahud King, King of Men, and I think that's it.
yeah. So
But yeah,
then,
it's the same.
yeah, another heroic tier change. Now this is a new one. Change Owen's heroic tier to a minor hero. So gone down from Fortitude leading 12 to a minor hero leading 6. Maybe that is more in view of having to have a hero of Fortitude for an ally rather than the profile on its own.
Yeah, because again, there's a couple of the next heroic tier change is the same sort of thing.
So we might as well say that one now then. So also Círdan has moved down from a hero of Fortitude to a minor hero.
I guess because if you have one of those fact lists where you can, they are green. You Arwen with having Nature's Wrath at I think she's 60 points or
Mm.
70 on a horse. Leading 12 elves is very good for 70 points. So
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those. Um, Staying on Arwen very quickly, she may be included now in a Fellowship army as part of the list, as long as it also includes Aragorn Strider.
I don't know how I feel about that. It's not a massive bad thing, but I feel like that could have just been a kind of Legion kind of thing.
Again, I think this is one of those examples where people were complaining about. I don't want to say complaining actually. People had suggested that they could no longer do this thematic part of obviously where
Yeah.
Arwen meets Aragorn and rescues Frodo, etc.
Mm.
And
But
they've
that's what the Legions are for, really, right? Aren't they?
again,
Some
so
of them.
as I said with regarding the allies, we may see that change again when
Mhm.
all the legions are released. Obviously, this is
Yeah.
like a stopgap potentially.
Yeah. And then, so touching on the Kieran one a bit, I think this one might upset a few more competitive lists, even just a general high elf list, because all of a sudden you can't have him and another hero leading 24
I
between
mean,
them.
I played a couple of GBHL events last year. Not many, admittedly. I have still on a semi hiatus from them, just for
Mm.
financial reasons. Um, and getting the time off work, it's not as easy as it used to be away as many weekends as I was.
Yeah.
Anyway, sidetrack. There was a lot of Kurdan and a big hero. I think you played it against me last year as well.
Yeah, so I do at lower points because I've got Rivendell Army, but I find when you go lower, I like using them at lower points because you can use a big hilly hero like Gilgalad and Círdan, and I
That's
found that I
exactly what
never,
you used against
yeah,
me. Was yeah.
and I found I only ever had the points to get about 7 troops in his warband anyway, so it
I mean,
doesn't really,
potentially at lower points, it might not change anything. He might just
no,
lead your 6 bowmen that you bring,
exactly,
and your spears and swords go with your big killy hero. But I think it at higher points potentially
definitely,
because
yeah,
you're already
six, seven
paying
hundred,
80 points for him,
yeah.
and then potentially now you'll have to take another hero, maybe a captain, uh, or Arwen to bring up the other 6 troops potentially.
With Maelstrom and the new split deployments on a couple of the scenarios, that could be a bit of a problem for a more competitive player.
It also a lot of armies are green with Rivendell, I believe, off the top of my head.
Yeah,
It does stop you taking the Fellowship and a Kurdan, for
yeah,
instance.
with 12. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think that's it. I think that's probably the biggest tier change. I think because it's one of the more common used heroes, whether that's in a pure army or in an ally.
yeah,
So that might throw a bit of a spanner in the works for some lists, but then for others, like I say, sometimes when I took him, I was taking him with 6, 7 troops anyway. So maybe for some, maybe for others, but you can see why they've done it. If they've taken the ally change back to you can go green allies with fortitude, this is probably two of the more competitive, or for want of a better word, problematic combos. So they've knocked them down to minor to
yeah.
kind of meet halfway again with those changes. That's how I see it anyway.
I think that's I think you're spot on there.
Yeah.
To be honest.
So, but no, it's going to change a few lists, but in general, it's just stopping that power combo. I think is the main
Yeah.
thing with those two. So moving on, now another big one. Haldir is changed to Hero of Valor.
Again, I think that was because a lot of people pointed out that you could no longer take
The Helm's
a
Deep,
Helm's
if you
Deep
like.
list that wasn't the Legion.
Yeah,
Because obviously, to take the Legion, you need to have Theoden and all the Rohan heroes, or some of the Rohan heroes. You have to have at least Theoden. So it kind of, if you was to do a deeping wall
yeah, it lets you
list,
do that.
you can have Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Haldir, and some elves, which I think is very cool.
But that could have, for me, that could have been added in because I think he's got the rule about if they're nearby, treat him as a banner. Maybe you could have added that just in his profile, is if your army only contains Haldir and a warband, worded a lot better than this, you
Yeah,
can take Gimli, Aragorn, and Legolas as a historical alliance. But then that opens a can of worms for doing that with every single profile in the book.
yeah. I think it's literally just a change that maybe was an oversight. Maybe it's to allow people to take a deeping wall list per se. I mean, that list is what, maybe 400 points for 400 points for the 3 hunters, and then Haldir is, I think he's around 90. I don't know. I've never used him. And then you can take 15 elves. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's probably like a little 700-point army
you
potentially.
might see him a bit more as well because he is a named hero at the end of the day. He's a bit better than a captain, and so you might see him in some more lists now, maybe as well.
And
But maybe
he still shoots twice, I believe.
exactly,
Yeah.
you don't really see him a lot. But then maybe the big thing that this has stopped. Maybe Jay was just fed up of seeing all the memes, and he thought, you know what, I've had enough.
I mean, the thing is, I've never seen Haldir mentioned as much. I think I said this in the original
Yeah,
podcast, but I've
I've
never
played
seen
against him maybe
Haldir
once.
mentioned as much, and I've never seen anyone use him apart from I've seen him being used at Seven Stones in a Deeping Wall list with elves, and but then that's Seven Stones, which is like the fluffiest event on the calendar. So
Maybe it's one of those. It just kind of stopped people doing it if they wanted to, wouldn't mean that they would. Maybe you'll see more now because it's Hero Valor with the changes that brings, not just for the allies, but
for
for
a Glathrim army. Yeah, makes
yeah.
sense.
We'll see how that pans out. But
I think the
yeah,
shade is the same.
yep. Does it say anything about the cave troll? Because there was a talk about because it's only Angmar models and the cave troll doesn't have the Angmar keyword. It doesn't look like the wording's changed.
No, it doesn't look like it.
So cave trolls are still getting -1 as it stands.
Yeah, which is a little bit of an over. Again, they've changed half of the things that people, and then
Yeah,
I can't really say the evil side's not been looked at because there's a lot of stuff on the good side that's
yeah,
bad. But yeah, I'm sure again that's might
yeah.
get looked at.
Potentially an oversight. I would imagine. Might not be, but that's my view. So this was new, wasn't it? The Easterling Army bonus.
This
I
is a
don't remember
brand
this
new
bit.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a brand new one.
So add the following line to the end of the army bonus. So this is the Easterling Army bonus.
Yeah.
If there is an Easterling contingent as part of an army that contains an alliance, this army bonus is only in effect if 25% or more of the total models in the army have the Easterling keyword. So their army bonus is about the re-rolling if the game ends.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
part.
also they get +1 courage when they're broken.
So maybe it was just to stop people allying in one model or one unit of Easterlings just to get that reroll.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is.
So maybe that's how I see that anyway. I've never come up against anyone who's done that, but maybe in other countries or more competitive events, maybe that's the case.
I haven't seen it. I can't remember who exactly the Easterlings are green with or historical with, but
Maybe it's that, or maybe it's I don't know. That's the only thing I can see of that. If anyone knows of any other reason why that's been added, throw it in the comments below. But that's what I see that as.
I think it is just that stop people min-maxing on historical bonuses for that very reason. So
if that's the case, a good positive change there.
Mm.
So the Haradrim King, heroic tier increased to Hero of Valor, and the Mahud King, heroic tier increased to Hero of Valor. That's probably the same as before, because like you said, all the kings have gone up to Hero.
Obviously they did that to sort of compromise with some of the lists that didn't have many heroes of valor or higher. So, which is interesting now because they've obviously scrapped that. So, or they've reversed it a little bit. So, it's nice that they've kept the valor tier heroes for the king profiles.
Yeah.
I think the last change is in the Armies of the Hobbit.
Yes.
Errata.
So we'll do the ones that have been doubled up. So the Arwen and Círdan changes have been doubled up in here.
Yeah.
Although I think there's a slight print error because it's got about adding Arwen into the Fellowship twice and the Círdan's heroic tier. So maybe the Arwen heroic tier is probably meant to be in here as well, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it's just a...
If you're taking a Rivendell Hobbit list and try and argue that Arwen is still a hero of fortitude because they're out the Hobbit book, then I think you're a bit of a naughty person, really. I imagine it's just been copy and pasted twice, the wrong thing. That will probably change and maybe no one will notice.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
But then the one change that has been added completely, I think, this wasn't in it last time, I don't believe.
Again, I think this is to do with the Green Alliance change.
Yeah, the Green and Convenient Alliance, like the half change back, if you like. So this is probably one of the problem allies, if you like.
Well, yeah, because you could take a captain from Lake Town, have Alfred in his warband, and then you've got a 5-mic captain, potentially.
So the change is, for Alfred the Councillor, add the following to Alfred's profile. Alfred may only be included in an army that includes either the Master of Lake Town or Bard the Bowman. Makes sense from a thematic point of view.
Yeah.
It's just to stop that, like you say, having a 5-mic Lake Town captain. Yeah, I think that's fairly straightforward. Just a bit more thematic. Again, stops things that may have been used just for kind of abuse and power purposes.
Yeah.
So all in all, I think they're all pretty good changes, similar to before. If anything, I prefer the main one is the ally change, and the others have kind of linked on from that.
Yeah.
I prefer the half change, if you like, so allowing Green to still be fortitude.
It kind of seems
don't, but
it kind of seems like maybe they realised they hit casual players a little bit too hard.
Potentially,
Because
yeah.
people like to play by the... You play a themey per se, but people still like to play by match play rules just because
Yeah,
generally most people play... again, don't shoot me if you're only um, a pure narrative player. I'm sure people are, but I think for the most part, even when you're playing casually, people still play by match play rules just because
yeah,
you might want to try little combos out. You might want to try certain things out for your army that you wouldn't normally use, etc., etc. And
exactly.
I think the ally change certainly helps with some of those lists at certain points levels where you really couldn't ally anything across that made sense. I think there's a couple of examples off the
Yeah,
top of my head. Earl the
it's
Young, the Haldir one, the Arwen one, and they've addressed
Last
that. And
Alliance as well. You couldn't do a captain of either if you did it with lower
you
points,
can
things
now, and
like
that would make that could, from a very small game standpoint, that would make sense for um, you're at a specific small part of the battlefield and you just
that.
have
Yeah,
two captains back to back or whatever. It's quite there's a few. It doesn't always make sense. I don't think you should have um, a leader of legend with a captain from the other faction. I kind of see what they were saying from that standpoint,
yeah.
but they've changed it for better or for worse. We'll find out. As you say, I also think it's better this way. From
Yeah,
a generic, I'm just playing the
semi fluff, semi competitive. I think is kind of them. It's hit a middle ground with that kind of niche. I think,
yeah,
and I prefer it because that's the kind of way I kind of play usually.
yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I like it. Other people may prefer it in the old change, may prefer it with no change, but
I mean,
I
we've
think
had
it's a happy
one
medium.
GBHO event, I believe, with the FAQ, because the FAQ was released so near to his event, he didn't actually have it
Force.
in place. I don't think it's going to change the GBHL. I think there's an event this weekend, so maybe the TO won't use the new FAQ again or the
And they
errata.
have the semi-old FAQ,
Yeah,
but
but
they're now not on the website. So if someone looked at it last minute,
yeah,
so that's the only issue it might cause. But I imagine that can be easily sorted out. I
I mean
think.
my event's still 3 weeks away, so we'll
So
be
you're
using
using
the
the new
the
FAQ.
current as of the 20th of February.
Yeah,
We'll be using this one. So
yeah, perfect. But yeah, this was only we thought this would be a lot shorter than it is. It's been about 20 minutes or so. So just a quick run through of our thoughts. Whether we think these are good or bad. Generally, I think they're pretty good. I can see where the minor hero changes for Rivendell for pure list could be a little bit of a hit at higher points. But hey ho, everyone's not going to come out of it unscathed through every FAQ. So
well, I mean, you
just
still, depending on what you do from a Rivendell list standpoint, if you wanted to run Arwen and the twins are Fortitude, so you still get a good amount of models and
yeah, it just
uh,
stops the allying in, like you say. It's obviously linked in with the ally changes.
yeah,
I think,
yeah,
but in general, I think they're pretty good changes. I'm
yeah,
fairly
no,
happy with them.
very positive.
And yeah, let us know what you guys think. Throw in the comments below. We'll try and get this out today, so it'll be quite relevant. Some of you may well read the FAQs as you're half listening to this, or afterwards, or before, and just let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Um, feel free to subscribe to the channel. We've got a semi-regular podcast where we go through various topics.
Oh, we had four episodes last week, so
Yeah, which at the moment it's been quite regular.
we
But
were having a week off to let everyone sort of catch
yeah,
up. But obviously, Jack messaged me very quickly and was like, "Oh, are you up?" I was like, "Oh, are you free?" I was like, yeah, technically I am." So we thought we'd just quickly throw this one up while it's
yeah.
hot off the press, so
A
to
little bit
speak.
of a bonus one for you. And if anyone's not a member of our community, it's the East Anglia Hobbit community on Facebook. You'll find it. Just search it up, and we play games throughout. Actually, the southeast of England, really.
It's ever expanding at the moment.
At the moment, we've got people coming, and everyone can join as welcome. We've got a few events coming up soon. We'll go through them more on kind of specific podcasts. I think we might get some people who are just listening for the FAQ, which is fine. Everyone's welcome. So yeah, any thoughts, comments, if you agree with us, disagree with us, whatever your thoughts are, throw it in the comments, and it'd be good to hear everyone else's thoughts, really.
Definitely.
So we'll call this one here. Thanks for listening. Hopefully it's been interesting for you. It's been quite interesting to go through it with someone else's opinion as well, because you read through them on your own, you have your opinions, and then someone else gives you a different viewpoint. And it's been good.
Definitely.
So hopefully we'll have another podcast up maybe in the next week or so, and there are some hobby vlogs in the making as well.
We'll probably do a not GT preview.
Yeah.
Once I've done the rules pack, it'll be up it'll be up at the weekend. I promise. I've been so busy.
And maybe go through the breakdown of the factions, maybe that kind of thing as well.
Definitely.
If people get the listen. Cool. Sounds good. All right. Well, so that's the end of this episode, and thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.